Another nail in my coffin! Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is my series, Nails in a Coffin, where we learned that with great kills, there must also come great nails. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, let me tell you what Nails in a Coffin is all about. But before I do that, I do want to mention, last year during the holiday season, I gave away a Funko Pop to a random subscriber. And I like to bring some holiday cheer to everybody. We all know life can be pretty crappy sometimes. So if I could bring a tiny bit of joy to somebody, I think that'd be pretty kind of cool, don't you? So I'm going to be giving away this Funko Pop of Spidey to a random subscriber. Now, to be entered, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel and leave a comment on any new video starting from this video today until any video that goes out until December 15th. I'll put everybody's name in a random generator and pick a winner. So you can answer once per video starting from today till December 15th when I'll pick the winner. Cool. Okay, now let's get back to those nails. So Nails in a Coffin, what is it all about? We see a lot of stupid decisions in horror movies, a lot of dumb actions and stuff. What I do is, on Nails in a Coffin, I evaluate a victim's response to a life-threatening situation based on a rating system I've coined as Nails in a Coffin. When someone is confronted with like a dire circumstance, their actions and decisions determine the number of nails they receive. So if they exhibit like tremendous resilience and make good choices, they're really smart, they sacrifice themselves to save others, they can earn a commendable 4 nails in the coffin. However, if they make dumb blunders, engage in careless actions such as freezing in place or opting to run upstairs instead of seeking safety outside, I find it appropriate just to give them 1 nail in the coffin. And if the victim stood no chance of survival, and it was no matter what they could have done, they were going to die anyways, I'll probably go down the middle and give them 2 nails in the coffin. So I just wrapped up covering the Saw franchise 2 weeks ago. I'll have a card up here for that playlist for you to check out. It was a lot of fun. On Nails in the Coffin, I always covered the Halloween franchise, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hatchet, and Puppet Master franchises. And I've covered many other films, and you should really check those out if you get a chance. So now that we got that out of the way, I'm covering, you saw the title, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. This is a fun horror comedy poking fun at 80s slashers. Now, if you've seen this movie before, you know there's a lot of stupid decisions in this movie. So let's find out how those victims rate with my Nails in a Coffin. The movie starts with a black and white shot of a reporter, Cheryl, and her cameraman, Billy, walking through a crime scene. Billy's asking if they should really be there, and Cheryl's being your typical obnoxious reporter character. Out of nowhere, she's hit in the face with a baseball bat, falls to the floor. Billy takes off running, but he's also hit by the bat off camera, and they're both killed. Not much to dissect with these kills, so first up, Cheryl. I'm going to give her 1.5 nails in a coffin. She never saw what hit her, and there wasn't much that she could do. However, she should have known better to be in an active crime scene just to get a story. And she wasn't paying attention to much of any of her surroundings, which would be something you'd want to do if you're in an active crime scene, especially if you're looking for your story. She just kind of haphazardly walked into a dangerous spot where murder just happened. So I got to take some points off for that, even though there wasn't much she could do. So the best she's going to get is 1.5 nails in the coffin. Billy, he's next, and I'm going to give him 2 nails in the coffin. He was trying to tell Cheryl, hey, this is a bad idea, but she didn't want to listen. And as soon as he saw her get hit, he ran away, but he didn't make it far. So giving him credit for knowing it was a bad idea and trying to run away fast, he's getting 2 nails in a coffin. We then meet the typical everybody's attractive cast of trope characters that will be the carnage candy for this film. Nothing we haven't seen many times before. Another fun aspect of this movie is that we're poking fun at those tropes. You know, they're all on the way to a cancer trip in West Virginia, and they stop by a local gas station, and they run into Tucker and Dale, 2 hillbillies who recently bought a vacation home, a rundown cabin deep in the woods. Dale is sweet on one young woman, Allison. Tucker convinces Dale, hey, go talk to her. What can happen? What's the worst that can happen? He walks over to the group carrying a scythe, but granted, that wasn't the best idea. All he succeeded in doing was scaring her away and freaking out all of her friends. A short while later, the group of soon-to-be victims are sitting around a campfire. Chad is telling a story about the Memorial Day Massacre, where some hillbillies went on a killing spree that took place 20 years ago. Flashback time. A group of campers are enjoying themselves and 2 hillbillies interrupt their party. One of them stops the 8-track that was playing in the car. One kid sees the hillbilly holding a saw blade. He tries not to be confrontational. Then the hillbilly throws the saw blade into the kid's head. Everybody takes off running, and one girl is killed when another hillbilly catches up to her. Her back is to a tree, and he stabs her in the throat. The unnamed boy, he gets 1.5 nails in a coffin. I don't think people in movies have reflexes. I mean, he never budged. I know he didn't have much time to react, but he never flinched or anything. Based on the fact that he never moved an inch and the amount of time he had, I'm awarding him 1.5 nails in a coffin because I believe he should have flinched or something. Even if you don't see it coming, the close up and gets to your face, your reflexes are going to be to at least try and move. So you didn't do none of that. So I can only really give him 1.5 nails in a coffin. Now the unnamed girl, I'm only going to give her 1 nail in the coffin. Instead of running, she was running backwards and stopped when she hit a tree. And she just stopped moving and stood there. She didn't keep on running. And when she was trying to get away, she was going backwards, not even looking where she was going. You can move a lot faster by running forwards than by running backwards. And if you bump into something, move out of that something's way, like the tree, and keep on running and stop looking behind you to see if the person's still there. Just run until you can actually get away. She didn't do none of that, so she's only going to get 1 nail in the coffin. The group of kids later on the night do skinny dipping, and Tucker and Dale are actually fishing in the same spot. They're watching Allison get into the water, but she sees them, gets startled, falls into the water, and hits her head, knocking herself out. Tucker and Dale pull out of the water and save her, but of course, misunderstanding right now, all of her friends see this, and they just think that their friend Allison was kidnapped by these two guys. The next morning, Dale is talking to Allison inside the cabin. Tucker's cutting down a log with a chainsaw, but he doesn't see the beehive inside that he cuts into, disrupting the bees.
Not the bees! Ah!
It pisses the bees off. He takes off running, waving his chainsaw around to get away from the bees. Mitch, who is outside, sees this. He thinks Tucker's on a rampage, so he takes off running, telling everybody, run, get out of the way. They're running next to each other for a moment. Mitch looks over at Tucker, taking his eyes off what's in front of him. That was his mistake, because he runs right into a tree branch, unaliving himself. Yeah, this is an easy one. Mitch gets 1 nail in the coffin. I'll give him credit for running from who he thought was a chainsaw-wielding maniac, but stop looking behind you. You can hear the chainsaw, so run away from that sound. Why are you taking your eyes off what's in front of you when you know you're running inside of a forest? You can trip on a rock, a branch, run into a tree. I can see you looking behind you briefly, like if you were running in an open field, but that's just going to slow you down. The last thing you need when you're running from your life, someone you think has a chainsaw, is slow down. Go straight, run away, stop looking behind you, taking your eyes off what's in front of you, which is what he did. So he only gets 1 nail in the coffin. Tucker and Dale leave a message for the group telling them that they have their friend Allison. The group of kids all think Tucker and Dale are going to kill Allison. It's funny how the movie plays out with the group and Tucker and Dale, the miscommunication. Tucker is then feeding some logs into a wood chipper, and Dale is digging a hole for an outhouse, and Alan starts to give him a hand. It's nice chemistry between the two. The group shows up and they're planning their attack. Todd has a spear fashioned out of a branch. He takes off running at Dale. Allison sees Todd running at Dale with the spear. She tries to push Dale out of the way. In the confusion, Dale accidentally knocks Allison out with the shovel. Dale falls into the freshly dug hole, but Todd drops the spear into the hole, trips, falls on top of the spear, impaling himself. This is another easy one. Todd gets impaled with 1 nail in the coffin. If you can run and attack somebody, why run screaming, giving them an opportunity to prepare for whatever you're going to do? I don't know what his plan was, but all he succeeded was in dropping the spear, tripping, and impaling himself. There was multiple things he could have done differently. A lot of would made him be able to survive, but he chose to be a moron. And on my channel, if you're a moron, you're only going to get 1 nail in the coffin. Just when you thought they can't get any more stupid. Well, Mike, come on down. You're the next contestant on I'm a Dumbass, and I was probably a waste of oxygen my whole life. This was one of my favorite deaths in the entire movie. Tucker is tossing branches into a wood chipper, and Mike takes off running at Tucker with the Swiss Army knife. For some reason, he dives at Tucker right as he was bedding down for another branch, and Mike lands inside the wood chipper, pulverizing himself. Tucker grabs his legs, trying to save the kid, but yeah, all Mike's friends can do is look on in horror. I know I said the lowest someone can get is 1 nail in the coffin, but on those rare occasions, and I haven't done this in about a year, I'm going to award Mike 0 nails in the coffin. Even if Tucker didn't move out of the way, Mike would have dived right into Tucker's upper back, and he jumped like he was diving into the ocean from a boat. I don't know what his plan was. When he dove, he led with his arms, and his head was down, so he wouldn't even see where he was landing. He didn't even try and tackle Tucker. He jumped high at him, which is what you would think you'd want to do, not dive into their back and you didn't even try and stab with the Swiss Army knife. You kind of dove like you were trying to pretend you were Superman. I can't make any sense out of this guy. It was one of the funniest, dumbest kills I've seen in a horror movie. Yeah, but this type of kill does have 0 nails in a coffin written all over it. Dale is then helping Tucker get Mike's legs out of the wood chipper where they were dragging him across the body right as the sheriff arrives with the rest of the kids in the back of his car. Tucker and Dale tell the sheriff that these kids just showed up and started unaliving themselves. The sheriff really doesn't believe their story, and I can't blame him since they were dragging Mike's legs across the ground. And Tucker and Dale aren't helping themselves explaining the situation. The sheriff follows the duo into the cabin to see Allison. He sees that she's still alive and well, and he appears a bit indifferent to the story that Tucker and Dale are telling. Well, he goes to lean on a support beam, but that gives way. The beam from the ceiling with nails in it falls down and hits the sheriff in the head. He stumbles outside, makes it to his cruiser, but he does die in front of the kids by his car. It looked like the sheriff had 4 nails in the head, but he's only going to get 1 nail in the coffin. I have to start right at a moment when he approached Tucker and Dale. The kids told him that Tucker and Dale were killing their friends. He saw Tucker and Dale dragging the lower half of somebody's body across the ground. He never did anything. He never called for backup. He never took Tucker and Dale into custody, put them in handcuffs. He never did anything. He just started talking to him like it was a normal occurrence to be dragging a body across the ground. Again, I always talk about this in my movies with law enforcement. They're written so poorly. I understand this movie is kind of like a spoof. But if he had done at least one thing right as a cop, he probably would not have died. But yeah, his stupidity is the reason he's dead, 100%, only 1 nail in the coffin. After the sheriff dies, Chuck, who was in the passenger seat, gets out of the vehicle. His friends in the back seat are begging him to let them out of the back. He ignores this and grabs the sheriff's sidearm. He points it at Tucker and Dale, tries to fire it, but the pistol safety is on. Tucker even tells him the safety is on. So Chuck turns the weapon around, looking to disengage the safety, and he shoots himself in the head. I hate to do this twice in one video, but I have no other option. Chuck, you guys say it with me. 0 nails in the coffin. I mean, what else do I have to say? He pointed the barrel of a gun directly at his face while looking for the safety. Even if you've never handled a firearm in your life, you at least saw one used in a movie, on TV, or even in a video game. What would possess you to point the barrel of a loaded gun at your face and fumble around with it? I'm sorry, you can't get more stupid than that. And in the Book of Nails, it's not an actual book, but maybe it should be. That type of stupidity will always get you 0 nails in the coffin. Our next kill happens a short while later after Chad and Naomi find Allison in the cabin. She tells Chad that Tucker and Dale are actually good dudes, and this is all one big misunderstanding. And I can see from where Chad and Naomi are, that wouldn't be easy to believe. Chad wants to burn the cabin down and kill Tucker and Dale. Allison is trying to reason with Chad when Tucker and Dale arrive back in the cabin. Allison is trying to kind of broker peace between everybody. And Chad is then at the table telling the story how his parents were attacked by hillbillies, where his father was killed by one of them. He explains that's why he hates hillbillies. Now, we don't see enough of this flashback kill or how we got there. There's not much I could do with the rating since the majority of the incident was off screen. Next, Jason and Chloe show up outside the cabin and they think Chad and Allison are being held hostage by Tucker and Dale. Jason and Chloe barge in the cabin with the weed whacker and Jason charges at Tucker. He moves out of the way and Jason hits Naomi in the face with the blades of the weed whacker. A fight starts between Chad and the duo. Chad picks up a lantern, throws it at them, but he misses, hits Jason in the foot, catching it on fire. Chloe, in an attempt to help, tosses a jar of clear liquid at his leg. Well, it wasn't water, it was moonshine, which results in Jason becoming engulfed in flames, burning him to death. Jason is awarded 1.5 nails in a coffin. I had to call a guy out for hitting Naomi in the face with a weed whacker. When Chad threw the lantern and caught Jason's leg on fire, Jason didn't stop, drop, roll, or do anything to try and put the fire out. Dale even yelled out to him, "Stop, roll!" He even stood there yelling. I'm not sure how far away the lake was, but running outside, dropping to the ground, rolling around would have been the best thing for him to do. But it's a movie and people have to be stupid. And I'm also going to add, it's not his fault that Chloe was a moron and threw the moonshine on his leg. That's why he escapes only getting 1 nail in the coffin, just squeaking out 1.5 nails. Fire's now spreading and it reaches Dale's supply of gasoline and other flammables. Dale and Tucker grab Allie, get out of the cabin. Chloe lights a cigarette. Chad also goes and runs out of the cabin, but Naomi grabs his leg, asking for help. Chad is trying to get away from her. Then we switch to outside, and the cabin goes kablooey, killing Naomi and Chloe. We're at our final 2 nails in this fun movie. First, I'll nail Naomi. I'm giving her 1.5 nails in a coffin. Like we've seen a lot of slashers, Naomi forgot she could move. Jason ran in her direction with the weed whacker, and she never even put her arms up. I don't think people have reflexes in this movie. I don't know. She just stood there, and the only reason I'm giving the extra half a nail is because it didn't kill her right away, and she did hold on to her life until the explosion. Now, our final nail goes to Chloe, and she earned herself 1 nail in the coffin. She saw the flames getting closer to the canisters of gasoline, but she had time to run out of the cabin. It looked like she just gave up on living. All she did was light a cigarette and sit down to die. I don't know what else really to make of this. It didn't look like she was cornered by the flames and couldn't get out. I don't know. I don't know if she just gave up here. So I really can only give her 1 nail in the coffin. Only Tucker, Dale, Allie, and yes, even Chad are the remaining survivors. All Tucker and Dale can do is watch their dream vacation home burn to the ground. Chad pulls himself out of the burning wreckage while Tucker and Dale watch in horror. Chad is burnt and he's ready for a fight. Before Chad can get to him, they take off running in Tucker's pickup. Dale thinks he's in the clear as he drives away from Chad, but he wasn't looking what's in front of him and he crashes into a tree. When Dale wakes up from the crash, Tucker is lying against a tree and he tells Dale that Chad took Allison. He gives Dale a motivated speech, so Dale goes to go save his girl. He finds Chad and Allison in a lumber mill. Chad has Allison tied up to his plan. He's going to kill her. Dale suits up like he's Ash from Evil Dead 2, and he gets in a fight with Chad. He's able to get Allison free from restraints, and they run up to the loft. They're up in the loft looking for something to fight Chad with, and they find a newspaper clipping that tells them that Chad is actually half hillbilly. His father was one of the murderers in the Memorial Day Massacre who had raped his mother, and Chad is actually half Billy. Chad breaks into the loft with the chainsaw before he can go after Dale. Dale shows a newspaper clipping saying, "Hey, you're a half hillbilly." Chad doesn't want to believe this, and while he has a moment, Dale tosses some chamomile tea into Chad's face, remembering that Chad said he was allergic. This causes Chad to go an anaphylactic shock. He can't get to his inhaler. He falls out of the barn window to the ground below, but he survived since he's actually killed the first 2 kills in this movie. Lennox sees Tucker recovering in the hospital. He's going to be okay. They even found his fingers that Chad had chopped off earlier, but one of them is the lady's finger with the painted nail. Another funny moment of the film. The movie ends with Dale and Allison on a date bowling where they kiss in a tender moment, ignoring some violence behind them. It was nice to see a dude like Dale land a chick like Allison, so 1 more for the good guys. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my nails in a coffin for Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Here's a summary of all the nails I've awarded. Now, looking at the average, that seems pretty accurate to me. I mean, that was the whole point of this movie, to make Tucker and Dale the good guys, subverting normal horror movie tropes and expectations. I really enjoyed this movie. It's funny, fun, great kills, nice story. It poked fun at slashers from the 80s, executed very well. I'm not sure I would want a sequel to this movie. Too often when we have a great horror flick, everybody is quick to want to greenlight a sequel. Most of the time, the sequel really can't hold up to the original, and it can even tarnish the enjoyment of the original, but I don't think I want a sequel to this movie. But what do you guys think? Do you want a sequel to Tucker and Dale versus Evil? Well, I will see you guys here next week for another installment of my Nails in a Coffin series, where it's close to Thanksgiving, and I will be covering a movie appropriate for the holiday. I hope you all are doing well, so be safe, be good to each other, take care of each other. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.